On March 15th, satellite imagery captured something unusual moving through the South China Sea at 18 to 20 knots. It was not one of the two supercarriers already deployed to the Middle East. It was not a cruiser or a destroyer. It was a 45,000-ton warship built to carry Marines and fighter jets, racing southwest toward the Strait of Malacca with no announced destination and no press briefing. Ship spotters had first picked it up 2 days earlier, passing south of Taiwan through the Luzon Strait, sailing alone, separated from the two transport docks it had been operating with in the Philippine Sea just a week before. The ship was USS Tripoli, hull number LHA-7, and the Pentagon had not said a word about where it was going. But the trajectory was obvious. Tripoli was heading for the Persian Gulf, and the reason was a problem that 2 aircraft carriers, 8 destroyers, and over 6,000 airstrikes had failed to solve. The Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed since early March. Tanker transits have dropped to near zero. The historical average is 138 vessels per day. By mid-March, some days saw 1 cargo ship make the crossing, sometimes none at all. At least 16 commercial vessels have been attacked since the war began, killing 8 seafarers. Insurance companies pulled war risk coverage. Maersk suspended all crossings. Oil prices surged past $105 per barrel. The IRGC declared that any ship attempting to pass would be set on fire. And even though the United States Navy has destroyed over 60 Iranian warships, sunk all 4 of Iran's most advanced Shahid Soleimani-class corvettes, eliminated over 30 mine layers, and struck roughly 6,000 targets across Iran in less than 3 weeks, the strait remains shut. Not because Iran has a navy left, because it does not need one. A single missile hitting a single tanker is enough to keep every insurer on Earth from writing a policy. And Iran still has missiles. That is where Tripoli changes the equation. This is not a standard amphibious assault ship. Tripoli is an America-class Flight Zero vessel, one of only 2 ever built without a well deck, the flooding compartment traditionally used to launch landing craft. When the Navy announced this design decision, it drew intense criticism. An amphibious ship without a well deck seems like a ship that could not do its primary job. But the trade-off was deliberate. The space that would have held the well deck was converted into an enlarged hangar and expanded aviation fuel storage. The result is a ship that can simultaneously operate up to 20 F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters, roughly half the air wing of a nuclear supercarrier at a fraction of the cost. In May 2022, Tripoli deployed to the Western Pacific and loaded 20 F-35Bs aboard for the first time, testing a concept the Marine Corps calls the Lightning Carrier. That test proved the ship could function as something the United States had not fielded in decades, a light aircraft carrier with 5th-generation stealth fighters, operating independently of the carrier strike group. Right now, Tripoli is carrying elements of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, approximately 2,500 Marines and sailors who just finished exercise Iron Fist 26 alongside Japanese forces from late February through March 9th. The 31st MEU is the Marine Corps' only permanently forward-deployed expeditionary unit, based in Okinawa, and it travels with a full combat package: an infantry battalion, a composite aviation element with MV-22B Ospreys, AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters, UH-1Y Venom utility helicopters, CH-53E heavy lift transport helicopters, and the F-35Bs of Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 121. Escorting Tripoli are the guided missile cruiser USS Robert Smalls and the destroyer USS Rafael Peralta. Together, these 3 ships constitute a self-contained expeditionary strike group capable of air superiority, anti-surface warfare, amphibious assault, and sustained ground operations, all without a single boot touching shore until the commander decides the moment is right. The question is what CENTCOM plans to do with this force when it arrives in approximately 10 days. Nobody outside a small circle at MacDill Air Force Base and the Pentagon knows for certain. But the logic is not hard to follow. The Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group has been parked in the Arabian Sea since before the war started. Lincoln's fighters operate from roughly 500 miles away from the strait. A round trip at that distance gives a jet perhaps 15 to 20 minutes of time on station over the shipping lanes before it has to turn back for fuel. Tripoli does not need to sit 500 miles away. It is smaller, more survivable in confined waters than a supercarrier, and designed to operate closer to the threat. If positioned 100 to 150 miles from the strait, its F-35Bs could patrol shipping corridors for an hour or more per sortie. That triples the available coverage over the 2-mile-wide transit lanes where tankers are most vulnerable. But the F-35Bs may not be the most important thing aboard Tripoli. The Marines are. Iran's coastline along the Strait of Hormuz is among the most fortified terrain in the Middle East. The IRGC has spent decades building underground missile cities, networks of tunnels carved into mountains and cliffs across Hormuzgan province, housing anti-ship cruise missiles, fast attack boats, unmanned surface vessels, sea drones, and naval mines. Keshem Island, which sits directly inside the strait, contains an underground missile complex that military analysts describe as a fortress. Coastal batteries with C-802 and Ghadir anti-ship missiles are embedded in rock faces near Bandar Abbas. The Ogab-44 underground airbase shelters Iranian fighters inside a mountain. Iranian state media has released footage showing tunnels packed with weapons on automated rail systems, ready for rapid deployment. These are not targets that airstrikes can reliably eliminate. A bomb can collapse a tunnel entrance. The IRGC digs a new one. A bomb can destroy a launcher caught in the open. But the launchers that stay underground, rolling out only to fire and retreating immediately, are nearly impossible to suppress from the air alone. That is why the Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. military planners are reconsidering something the Pentagon has avoided since the Korean War: an amphibious ground operation on Iranian soil, specifically along the Hormuzgan and Bushehr coastlines, to push launchers out of range of the shipping lanes. Whether that happens is a political decision far above CENTCOM's pay grade, but the tools for it are now in transit. A Marine Expeditionary Unit can insert forces by helicopter and Osprey onto terrain that has never been prepared for ground defense, bypassing minefields and coastal obstacles entirely. Vertical envelopment, landing troops from the air behind enemy positions, is exactly what the 31st MEU trains for. The islands inside the strait, including Abu Musa and the Greater and Lesser Tums, are Iranian-controlled positions that have long figured in war plans as potential objectives for neutralizing anti-ship threats. Seizing them would remove launch platforms sitting directly above the shipping lanes. Meanwhile, the Navy is assembling the other pieces needed to reopen the strait. 3 littoral combat ships, Canberra, Tulsa, and Santa Barbara, are in Bahrain carrying mine countermeasure mission packages that replaced the recently retired Avenger-class minesweepers. Each LCS can tow sonar arrays and deploy the AN/AQS-20A mine detection system, but mine clearance is slow, dangerous work. The ships crawl through suspected minefields at minimal speed and require constant air protection. Former Navy intelligence officers have stressed that local air superiority must be established before any sweeping can begin. Arleigh Burke destroyers with Aegis radar would provide the defense umbrella, while carrier fighters suppress coastal launchers targeting the minesweepers. Each of the 8 destroyers in the Arabian Sea also carries 2 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters that can be fitted with mine countermeasure pods. The entire operation amounts to a sequenced campaign. Continue degrading Iran's coastal missile capability through airstrikes. Establish air superiority over the strait to protect mine countermeasure ships. Clear and verify the shipping lanes. Then begin escorted convoys, destroyers flanking supertankers through the 2-mile-wide corridors with fighter cover overhead. President Trump has signaled the U.S. would provide military escorts and government-backed war insurance. France committed 10 additional warships and 2 frigates to an EU escort mission. Pakistan launched its own operation. But the fundamental problem remains. The strait is only 21 miles wide, the navigable lanes are narrower still, and Iranian mobile launchers hidden in mountain tunnels can fire, retreat, and fire again. Every tanker that gets hit resets the insurance clock to 0. That is why Tripoli matters more than its tonnage suggests. Aircraft carriers can bomb Iran, destroyers can shoot down missiles, but neither can walk into a tunnel complex and clear it. Neither can land on a cliff and silence the launcher firing from a cave above the waterline. The ship that critics once called a mistake, a landing ship that cannot land anything, may turn out to be the platform that breaks the deadlock. Not because of what it lacks, but because of what it carries. 2,500 Marines who do not need a beach to come ashore, and 20 stealth fighters that do not need a supercarrier to fly.